Okay, welcome to another shop update. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've done the last one, and on the last one I told you that I was going to make a part 2 and try and post it within a couple of days, and that didn't happen. Didn't happen for a number of reasons. It didn't happen because I've been kind of really extremely busy lately, making hauls and doing things like that. But the other thing is with this truck, I told you that I was going to modify the exhaust. Now, I don't know how extensively I got into it or if I've gotten into the parts yet, but we'll show that in a little while, and I will do the explaining to that. A couple of things has happened. One of the things is I had ordered some of the wrong clamps to begin with, and I had to correct that so that I could get the right clamp for the exhaust system. And when they sent the right clamp, they only sent half of the order, not telling me that the other half had been back ordered. So I called them up and explained that to them. But given all of this, it took a while, over a week, to get it corrected, get half of the order, and then probably another 6 days on top of that to get the other half of the order. What I had to do is order another part number because the manufacturer was out of stock and didn't know when he was going to make another production run on the original clamp that I had ordered. I know it's a long explanation, but just bear with me. So I'm going to be back working on this. A bunch of things are going on, and I will bring you back and make inserts to explain it all to you as I go along. Okay, so as I had said in the last shop update, there were some things that I had videotaped that I had done in the shop that had happened and was going on in the shop that I wanted to get into that shop update, but it was becoming way too long, and that's what part 2 of the shop update was going to be about. So let me show you some brief clips on what else was going on at that time, and I'll bring you back. So I'm in here in the shop. I got the truck in the shop, and what I'm doing is trying to do some preparation work so that I can get the bed, the flatbed figured out. I'm gonna build it myself. I went and looked at one, but it's got a metal deck on it. It's got a diamond plate deck on it. I really don't want a metal deck because of the sliding factor of material on a metal deck, and because I would just rather have the wooden deck so that stuff doesn't slide as bad. And I've also got the option for screwing down cribbing to keep stuff from moving around, shifting around. I do that quite frequently when, like, if I'm carrying plate or something, I'll put like a berm in front of the plate steel. So if I have to stop fast, or God forbid to get in an accident or something like that, it keeps the plate from shifting forward. So that you're able to screw it down to the deck and keep the plate from shifting forward in a case like that, stopping fast. But what I'm doing right now is I'm going to get rid of this exhaust system here. The way it's configured, it's got this big support bracket, which is in the way of the flatbed. It would take up too much room. Now, it's going to take up a lot much more room than I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is put dual stacks on it. I'm going to put 2 6-inch stacks coming up. So what I'll do is I'll go back there and put a splitter pipe out, and then just have the stacks coming up the back. Now, they might cross over the window, but really I don't care. The window is just basically to let light in. There's no mirror to see out the back window, and if you had a box truck on here, the rear window would be absolutely useless. I'm not really sure why they put it in. I'm just assuming it's for light into the cab. So what I'll do is I'll have an 8-inch space in between Let me take you around to the other side and I'll show you, because the cab suspension system kind of protrudes out from the back side of the cab to begin with. So as you can see, the shock absorber and kind of the mounting of it protrudes out. So I'll keep an 8-inch space in here and bring, I'm going to have 6-inch exhaust stacks on it. I'm going to bring them up within there, anchor them to the back of the cab. But anyways, there's that. I'm in the shop. I had a problem and I left the my lights on the other day for about 8 hours, and the running lights on the truck, and by mistake left them on. It drained the battery down and I had to jump start it to get it started, but I've never ran it long enough to get really a full charge back in. So what I've done is just hooking up the battery charger to it so that I can get a full charge back into them batteries again. Because again, it not being registered and plated, I'm really not able to take it out on the road to be able to run it around for a while to really charge the batteries the way that they should be when people normally drive and normally run it so that the battery gets charged. But anyways, I'll bring you back. Okay, just a shot with a muffler off of it. That thing was on there. Look at how far the muffler was. It was onto this pipe, into the muffler. But anyways, get that bracket off, and then I'll figure out what kind of a Y pipe I'm going to get to cut that exhaust back then. And here it is. The exhaust is off. The brackets are off on both sides, and here is your first cue. If you didn't know where this truck was from, first cue was when that bracket came off. Just a little surface rust underneath it. No pitting, no nothing like that. First cue that it's not from the Northeast. So that bracket's off. Here is all this stuff. This bracket that holds this thing up, I bet you it weighs a good 75 pounds. I'll take you over, show you the other side. The other side just held this. Sorry if that was. Just held that cross brace bracket from over here next to the battery box, and that's where it went, right there. I'll just clean that up, put a little black paint on there, take care of that. Okay guys, I'll bring you back. Okay, I'm back in the shop. This is the first day back since I went to St. Louis for that haul. I had told you about this in a previous clip, and I showed a pic of the generator sitting on the trailer. Had to take to St. Louis, and then I had to stop in Illinois and pick up a hit and miss engine for somebody, but that's another story entirely. Anyways, I came back, and my grandson was over here working on his wife's car, and he said that there had been a delivery for me, and they had it next door at the electrical shop. And so this is what it is. This is all the material for the stacks on the new truck, the local haul truck. As you know, I had taken the old exhaust off and am going to put on dual stacks. That's one of them. The other one's in the unopened box. Put dual stacks. They're miter cut tops on them. If you can see that, you'll see it in detail once I start doing it. But anyways, there they are, 6 inches. It's a 5-inch exhaust on the truck now. So I'm just going to split it off, and there's going to be two 6-inch chrome stacks coming up the back of the truck. But anyways, probably looks short in the box, but once you, I took it out and kind of sat it on the, stood it up next to the back of the truck, and it'll probably stick over the top of the cab a good 12 inches, and maybe even a little more. But boxes of random stuff. These boxes had those elbows that you see on the bottom of the stack. These are all elbows. This box is a Y pipe, and there's brackets and stuff to affix the stacks to the back of the cab. But anyways, you'll see it in detail. I'll bring you back. So we're going to switch topics here for just a second, but I just thought I'd show you a shot of the front of the truck. If you remember from the last shop update, there was 2 fog lights on there, and now there's only one. What happened is the fog light on my Ram got broken, and I just pulled the fog light here off and put it back onto the Ram, so that I would have both fog lights on the Ram, and I'll get another one ordered and put that on here. I'm still trying to work out the wiring for this, but let me bring you back for a short segment on that. There's an issue that I have with the electrical inside the truck. It's not really an issue, but I can't figure out how they intended some switches to be wired, but I'll bring you back for that. But right now, let's switch, and I'm going to show you a little issue I had with the Ram. Okay, I'm over by the Ram, and what happened is I kept hearing this rattling in the back, and what I thought it was is a fuel tank, and I'll show that to you a little later. But what it turned out to be is a stack. There was a bracket here, and an L bracket that bolted onto the side of the bed, and then the L went down beside the pipe, and a clamp went around it, around the pipe and around that bracket, and held it in place. Well, what happened is that piece of L bracket broke. Let me take you over to the other side, and I'll just kind of show you. You're not going to be able to see the L bracket, but what you'll be able to do is see that it's attached here. Now this bracket is bolted in here, and it comes over and it goes down, and this clamp is attached around the pipe and the leg of the L bracket. But the one on the other side broke, and what I'll do is I'll take you back. I didn't have another one, couldn't find another one. I called a guy, hopefully that would have one, but he didn't get back to me, so I need to fix it. So what I did is welded it together, and I didn't show you that, but let me take you back and show you what I'm doing with it. Now here it is, and as you can see, I welded it back together. What it's got is that bolt is pressed through, and it's got a flat head on it. It's probably tack welded into the bracket, but this bracket looked galvanized to begin with. So what I'm doing is I'm just throwing some paint on it. Now what I'm using is high heat paint. It's actually header paint, but it's good between 13 and 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. So those stacks don't get that hot, but I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't just throw engine paint on there, because the engine paint, they probably gets warmer than the engine paint could tolerate. But I'm just going to do that temporarily. Maybe I can get a new bracket to put back in there again. At least get a couple of them to have on hand in case it happens again. Not really sure why it broke like that. Okay, so let's get into the International. Let this be the lead-in back into the International, and that wiring I don't really want to call it an issue. It's probably more of me needing a diagram to figure out what their intention was. And I'll kind of explain it more in how I found out what's going on there, more in detail as I take you into the cab and show you exactly what the issue is. Some of my viewers have noticed that I didn't post a video for quite a while here, and have messaged me and kind of wondering what was going on, and hoping that everything was okay. If you've been a follower of mine for a long time, I have mentioned in the past that I have my wife has issues, medical issues. Not really medical issues as much as psychological issues. She has dementia, and sometimes that issue is exasperated by other things going on. She had a urinary tract infection before, and it makes that issue really worse. She has other psychological issues besides the dementia, but I don't really. She's bipolar, and she takes medication for it. But anybody that knows bipolar people really don't think there's an issue with them, and they don't want to take their medication, and it's always somebody else's problem, whatever's going on in their life. But regardless of the point. We took her in, and because she was getting worse, took her in to the doctor to see if that urinary tract infection had come back, and it did come back, and he gave her an antibiotic. Now, let me say that this was a different doctor that gave her this antibiotic than when she had this issue before, and they gave her a different medication. Well, she had a severe reaction to that medication, a rash. And there's a medical term for it, and I don't know what that medical term is, but for this rash. And the rashes can be so severe that they actually admitted her into ICU burn treatment. They have to treat this rash as they would burns on a person. Now, it didn't get that bad with her. They caught it in time and were able to treat it with medication. But she was in the hospital for a good 2 weeks. So I've had that going on also. So I don't want anybody to think that there is a problem with it, or it's just something that we deal with kind of all the time. If you've known anybody with dementia, it's kind of hard to deal with. It's kind of funny at first, but then it becomes very hard to deal with. But it's not like she's medically sick. There's people out there that are extremely sick, and I don't want anybody thinking that I'm making light of it, but it's not as bad as some medical conditions in other people. So that has been going on, and that's kind of why I haven't made videos of it. But anyways, that and the hauls that I've been making, I've tried to, I had commitments to people, and then this issue with her came up, and I tried to do things around being able to go to the hospital and visit her, and tried to schedule them that way. But anyways, that's kind of what's been going on. So let's get off of this subject and get back onto the international, and I'll take you inside and kind of show you the problem that I have. Okay, so we're in the cab of the truck, and as you can see, I've got part of the dash panel pulled out, a wiring part of it. So I have 6 switches on the top that are unused and were intended to be used to add things to. On the bottom, I have the differential lock and the PTO on-off switch. Okay, so what happened is I pulled this up. Well, let me back up again. When I got the truck and got it back to the shop from Colorado, we went to take it off the trailer, and as everybody knows, that the primary drive of the rear is on the back set of the back axle. So that's the axle that drives. If you lock the differential, then what happens is it locks in the front axle also, and both axles drive. So I backed it off of the trailer, and it got to the point where the rear axle was airborne because it didn't go down, the truck didn't go down the dovetail yet, and I just had the front axle on the trailer. So what I did is I hit the differential switch to lock it in, and it didn't work. And I thought, well, I really wasn't concerned about it. I thought that there was probably maybe a wiring issue back to the differential or something like that, or to a solenoid valve that if it's air controlled, just something like that. So that was an issue to be dealt with at a later date. I came in here wanting to use some of these switches for the fog or running lights as long as I had them. I've been through this thing before about having a fog light up here. As you can see, it's a fog light switch up there, and there is actually wires run to the bottom of the bumper to install fog lights on there. But my issue with this is that it is wired the way the regulations for fog and running lights are required. It's run off of the headlight switch. So the headlights have to be on in order for this switch to work. I don't want that on mine. Because again, when you're driving into snow or fog, sometimes you become hypnotized or blinded by the snow coming into the upper headlights. And if you turn them off and just use your running and fog lights, that doesn't happen because they're so low set that doesn't come into your field of vision. So that's why I wanted to use these switches. I pulled this unit out thinking it was just switches, and what it is a circuit board, two circuit boards. There's a circuit board on top and there's a circuit board on the bottom, and this is exactly how I found it wired. There is a plug that came in to the upper circuit board. Now let me tell you, these circuit boards are independent of each other. There's a cover that goes over it. You see the covers on here. This is the cover off of this one. But these circuit boards are totally independent. There is no interconnected wiring between the two circuit boards. So this wire comes into the top circuit board, which works those switches, but there is nothing into the bottom circuit board to power them or send the signal back into anything. And so hence that's what the issue was with the differential. So apparently somebody had been in here and changed the wiring somehow, but I can only find one plug, and I'm not sure how it's supposed to work. I can only find one plug back in the dash where these things could actually plug into, so I'm kind of confused as to how it originally was supposed to have been wired. Is there supposed to be another plug back there, or is there another plug back there that I just can't find? Or is a plug supposed to be installed aftermarket with wiring, and how was the wiring supposed to be configured between the two circuit boards? I have a power supply going into the upper circuit board, but I have nothing, no plug for the bottom circuit board, which runs the differential lock. So that's kind of what the issue is. I'm kind of hoping that I can find a wiring diagram, a factory wiring diagram that would kind of explain this thing to me, because they are factory switches. Hoping that I could find a wiring diagram that would explain it to me. Now let me say, I can go on the internet and like eBay or Amazon or someplace like that, or someplace that sells manuals, shop manuals for trucks, and find a listing for wiring diagrams. But the problem is they're expensive for this truck. They're $200 or more for a manual, and I'm not sure if the manual includes that. I don't want to go out and pay $200 for a manual if that switch wiring diagram isn't in the manual. So I'm going to try and research it some more, maybe go down to the international dealer and tell them, listen, I'll buy you a shop manual if you can show me that the wiring diagram is in there in the shop manual for these switches. So that's that. Let me just re-emphasize the thing about my wife, and we'll cut this video off here. I don't want people feeling sorry about it. It's something that happens in life. Her dementia is vascular created dementia. In other words, it's not Alzheimer's. It's a vascular dementia. Apparently she's had many strokes that probably caused it in the past, and nobody ever knew it. It just progressively got worse over time until we realized that there was something else going on besides her her other psychological issues. So let's cut it off there. Everything's good. She's out of the hospital. She wasn't in the burn ICU for she was only in there for about 4 days, and then they put her in a regular part of it. Let me just tell you that my granddaughter is a trauma nurse at that hospital that she went to. So she had actually worked on a transplant ward before she went into the trauma nursing, or the ER trauma nurse. So she got her, after she left ICU burn treatment, she was admitted to that transplant ward because she knew the nurses there, and she knew they knew her, and she would be well taken care of. But anyways, she's back home. Everything is good. Well, when I say good, back to her normal type condition. So everything's good with that, and life goes on. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, more to come.